I'm delighted to welcome Jim Pettigrew, the chair of Clydesdale Bank, and who has just stepped down as president of ICAS, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Scotland. Tracey, who's a partner with PwC with experience of cultural issues, not just in financial services, but also a range of other industries, pharmaceuticals, defence and so on too, who I hope will give us a slightly wider perspective. Stuart Mackintosh from the G30, their executive director. Lady Susan Rice, chair of the Chartered Banker Professional Standards Board, and a council member of the Chartered Banker Institute. For those of you who aren't aware, the Chartered Banker Professional Standards Board was the first banking industry initiative seeking to address issues of culture and conduct. Really started with discussions at the Institute back in 2008 and was launched in 2011. So before LIBOR, before the Parliamentary Commission, before everyone else had discovered issues of conduct and culture, I think it's fair to say. Susan's also chair of Scottish Water and is on the board of Sainsbury's, and so I think is very well placed to bring both a financial services perspective and perhaps a broader perspective too to these issues around leadership, culture and governance. I'm delighted to welcome Anton, Chief Executive of ICAS, and not only are we delighted to be hosting the event together with ICAS, but ICAS as a professional body has built a formidable international reputation for its leadership on ethical and professional issues, and I think there's much that banking could and should learn from accounting, which I guess post-Enron faced some very similar cultural and ethical challenges to those we face in banking. And finally, on my far left, Ian Hardcastle, who's Head of Capability and Professional Development at RBS and a council member of the Chartered Banker Institute, who will be flying the flag for the practitioners as a banker of many years standing. I mean, in July 2015, the Group of 30 published a special report on banking conduct and culture, a call for sustained and comprehensive reform. And it sort of identified shortcomings, but also good practice in promoting and embedding, in maintaining and sustaining a strong banking culture, making a series of recommendations for central banks, bank supervisors, and for banking industry leaders themselves seeking to address culture in their institutions and across the industry more broadly. I'm delighted to welcome Stuart Mackintosh, the Executive Director of the G30 this morning, to present some of the key aspects of the report, after which I'd like to invite, first of all, our panel and then you to discuss these. And we hope particularly to bring a practical, practitioner-led, sort of at-the-coalface focus to it.
The G30 intervened on culture after two earlier pieces on governance of G-SIFIs. We were urged to do so by the world's leading and most influential supervisors who said, no, you can't stop there. You must make a statement on culture. You must identify good practices for the industry going forward because of the continuing scandals that they saw developing in the major markets. And so we engaged on that endeavor and we rolled out our report about a year ago. What's clear to us is, in some sense, the regulation part is easy, but the culture part is soft but hard. And we need to address the cultural failings and identify good practice and good approaches to returning the trust to banking. You know that it takes decades to build up trust in an institution, pride in an institution, but it can be smashed very easily by aberrant, problematic subcultures that engage in destructive behavior and destroy the trust with the public. So what will it take? Well, our report identifies a number of levels of actions that need to be undertaken, and we would underscore are underway in many institutions already. The boards need to take control and understand the culture of their institution. They must agree the overall cultural framework and embody it and talk about it on a regular basis. They must monitor that cultural performance. We're suggesting there should be a form of cultural dashboard that the boards themselves should look to, should design to use to give them a sense of the proxies that they monitor to judge culture. We would urge the boards to consider possibly having a particular committee which debates culture on a regular basis, but certainly the boards as a whole and the chairs of these institutions must grapple with culture and debate and discuss values, conduct, and behavior in their institutions on a regular and ongoing basis. At the senior management level, because let's face it, the boards are not there every day, those senior managers, the CEO and the senior management team, must embody the culture, they must live it and demonstrate it. They must walk it, they must show it in all the things that they do, and they must be judged accordingly. The boards must make determinations whether the senior managers are performing in a cultural sense, performing and adhering to the values and the behaviors and the conducts that are expected of them and of the institution. And on performance and appraisal, we're recommending a 50-50 split between normal performance measures and an assessment of whether those individuals, employees, are adhering to cultural, behavioral and values, the norms that you want in your institution. It's not going to be easy, but we think you must have that part of appraisal, making a judgment, a balanced scorecard judgment on cultural factors as well, in order to drive home the message that values, conduct and behavior are a crucial part of the success and effectiveness of your institution. And part of that is praising and rewarding those who perform up and above where they should normally be in terms of cultural performance, as well as penalising those who don't perform. We also understand and underscore that, of course, you can't make that appraisal and that judgment unless you have the right training in place, because you need to train your employees from the very beginning all the way through their careers, constantly reinforcing what is and is not expected, helping them to understand the grey areas, the difficult decisions. How do you do that? Well, we all live and we experience life in a series of narratives and stories. So it's not about rules on culture, it's about explaining to people in each business unit, in each context, how the cultural norms and the values apply in their case. And so talking about values matters. It's got to be a constant process. The front line has to own it and then press it down within the rest of the institution. And of course you need your 3 lines of defense. So you need the front line to own it and to express it and to explain it. You need the second line, the compliance team, to be judging whether or not that's being adhered to, and then you need the audit trail at the end. So that in brief is at a very high level the type of recommendations we have for the banking community and the banking industry to help restore trustworthiness in our industry.